You didn't put the.
No.
You didn't do the thing. We're gonna.
That's okay.
You got to do the.
Yeah, we'll do it manually.
Yeah, just press.
But just be more awkward first.
Sure. Just start the input the intro.
Everyone act like that didn't happen. Here we go. Top Lobster Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim shit.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit. What happened to the home of the brave? These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us fight and be slaves. And everybody's just walking around, heading the clouds, and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. By then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the air.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is Top Lobster, the father of disinformation.
Hi, guys.
We're not going to paywall this. This is the continuation of the Book of Genesis series with Ed Mabry, but we do want to let you guys know where to support us if you want to support us. That is patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. Sign up for whatever tier you'd like. You get a bunch of different perks, including early access to episodes before they drop to the general public. And when we release Bohemian Grove tickets, you guys are going to get first dibs. Isn't that cool? If you sign up for the daddy tier, we'll call you daddy.
Somebody did sign up for the daddy tier.
And if you sign up for the mommy tier, we'll call you mommy. You know, Ed was wondering what sort of value to bring his Patreon members.
There you go, Ed.
And maybe there's an idea. If they sign up for a certain tier, Ed may call you daddy. If you sign up for
I will do
one,
that. You know what? You can call me Papa. You can call me. Yeah, you know what's that saying is like, you know, so someone said that people who it was a political thing, like during the Obama era, who, you know, when everyone thought that Obama liked them because seemed like such a cool guy, they said people who like Obama are like people who go to a strip club and think the stripper likes him because they call him Poppy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very much the same thing. But, well, I guess if you do it at Ed's, you get to call him, he figured it out. You get to call him Poppy and I guess maybe Mommy. We have to call our patrons. Apparently, there's one guy out there that we have to call Daddy. Thank God we haven't run into him.
He hasn't redeemed it yet.
He hasn't redeemed it.
Yeah, I'm waiting. That's actually a surprise to me.
We're just going to get a knock on the door one day.
Yeah,
It's just
like,
going to be this patron.
with the paper, and he's like, you see,
I'm here to make good.
So I'll come up with the Poppy tier. You have to, if you pay a certain amount, I will call you Poppy.
I'm gonna sign up for Ed. It's been a while. It's always we do this too often. There's a long stretch. I know you've been out and you've been about, and it's good to have you back. People have been asking, where is Ed? And so here he is, guys. We brought him. Yeah. We actually had a guy just today say, hey, I really miss the Ed Mabry episodes, and then we didn't say anything to him. And then, like, a couple of hours later, he was like, oh, my God, it's happening, because he got the notification that you were coming. So that guy is crushing today.
They're all these guys are super schizophrenic. So they're like, I spoke it into existence. I was like, we planned it. We actually planned it.
We kind of knew it was going to happen already. But, you know, sure, whatever floats your boat.
The main reason I've been out of commission, some of my patrons know this, is because my mom had surgery recently. So I had to go down to take care of her. And a lot of stuff happening. I mean, my mom, she's older, she's, getting into the stage of life where, it's time to start doing estate planning and stuff like that. And for those of you who have gone through that, you know that your relatives can become the biggest a-holes on earth. And it was just stunning what I've had to deal with the last 4 weeks, with helping her out, dealing with my relatives who've just completely lost their minds. And it's a whole thing. But that's why I have not been available, and even my content has kind of dropped a bit on my channel, but I'm getting it back up, and there's some new things that I'm doing that I actually notify my patrons of this morning. But yeah, I'm back in the saddle.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break it to you, there are more important things than filling your content holes, and Ed Mabry has been addressing those more important things. How is Mama Mabry doing from the surgery?
She's doing much better, which is why I'm back home now. You know, it wasn't major surgery, but at her age, every surgery is major surgery, and so
exactly.
You know, a lot of pain, things like that. And she just wouldn't rest. My mother's a busybody; she's supposed to rest. And every time I look up, she was in the kitchen washing dishes. I'm like, but I'm here to do that stuff. Get back in the bed. And she's like, well, I'm just not used to being, you know, laid up.
How old is she, Ed?
She's 84.
She reminds me of my abuela, because I had a grandma that's more on the
83. I'm sorry, she's 83.
83. That's still, man, that's still what a blessed
Don't let her
age.
hear you say 84.
Yeah, she's 84. But, yeah,
Don't make me any older.
My grandma was the same way, man, and my dad was very much like you, where he was always there helping her out, and it took a toll on him. I mean, my dad aged, he was 40 something, maybe 50 at the time, and he didn't look it. He looked 30. But by the time those 6-7 years had passed of him taking care of her, he's grayed out and he aged. But I think it's a blessing, though. I think I look at him and I look at what he did for her there, and now I moved them onto the property with me, or you know, they moved with me, and I'm paying it back because I saw what he did for his mom, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna have my mom, my parents go through this end of life stuff alone. They have to come and deal with my bullshit. So yeah, you're doing the right thing, man. It's hard, but you know.
And the tough part is, and we'll get to the actual content in a minute, but the toughest thing for me is that, you know, I don't live near her. You know, I'm in Northern California, she's in Southern California. I mean, it's an hour flight, and it's, you know, well, 4 or 5 or 6 hour drive. But, you know, I got my family up here that I have that I'm with. And so I'm only down there occasionally, and there's people try to take advantage of old people. I mean, I've had to go through like all of her stuff, like her gardener's not doing landscaper's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Roofers come on, they're supposed to be doing work. I get up there like, you guys haven't done anything. What the hell are you charging her? So it's just a lot of stuff. And I wish I was closer. I wish and she won't move up here. I mean, you've got your folks on your property. We've been trying to get my mother to move up with us. And she's like, no, this is my house. I've lived here for 50 years. I don't want to leave. So what do you do?
Yeah, I got an aunt that's very much the same way, where she's trying to juggle 2 properties. She's up there in age. She's in her 70s, and she grew up in one of those properties. And so, and then the other one, it was kind of her first home that she bought. And now she's just sitting here trying to juggle them both. She doesn't want to get rid of them. And you know, I understand, places can mean a lot. You raise families, and you know, so I understand, but it's a shame. Maybe who knows? Maybe she'll get a little bit tired of keeping the other place up, and she'll come and hang out with you.
This is
That's cool. As long as she doesn't bring a little yappy dog with her. I can't stand that much.
And at the end of the episode, we'll have to split some of this money with you. We have a $50 super chat. We had a $20 just before. Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always. And always, and again I say rejoice. Yeah. And another $20 from Scott. This one's for the main camera fund, but we have the camera set up. I think.
Are they trying to say it looks bad? I think it looks good. If we finally dialed it in, we just had some technical difficulties, but thank you, Scott. And thank you. Was that Paranoid Wolf?
Yeah, and it's the first time I've seen you guys in the studio together. So obviously changes are happening that I missed out on when I was on my sabbatical.
Yeah, well,
involuntary sabbatical. I didn't want to, but yeah.
Top got a hair up his butt and decided that it was time for the studio, and he took at it sprinting. So I mean, you know, you weren't gone for a super long time, but it feels like it, right? Because we're in this whole new environment. But
but technically the same room. Wherever you were talking to me, wherever I was facing this way. But now we've changed it all, and this is the setup we're going with. So Dave moved a lot closer to me, and we've been doing this thing for a couple of months where we're still doing like a virtual meeting, but
even though I'm 8 minutes down the road
away. Yeah, so I'm just come over. What do we?
Yeah.
We'll build it.
Well, there we go. We built it,
nice.
and it looks good, and it's sort of functioning for now. You know, not bad for a couple of retards, but I
Ed, I remember what we were talking about.
You remember what we were going to talk about
specifically?
Yes,
we were gonna talk about foreskin.
Oh, that's right.
Foreskins and Scofield. I didn't forget.
Ed's been hanging out, but it's in the back of his mind this entire time.
Yeah. No, well, because I mean that was my last. You know, you guys have been doing a ton of shows since then. I've done very little. So like one of the last podcasts I was on was with you guys. So of course I remember that. Okay, now I've got to come up with the Scofield Bible stuff and foreskin stuff, circumcision.
I'm looking forward, man. What a banger! We really just keep serving up bangers to the audience. Scofield Bible and Foreskins. I mean,
really one and the same.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's a redundancy, but. So okay, all right. I don't know if you want to, because there's a hierarchy of things. Are we saving one for dessert and we're going with the main course first? Which one do you want to start with?
Well, let me start really quick with like a quick announcement that I made for my patrons.
Oh yes, please.
Earlier.
Where could they find you, Ed?
Right, oh my God, we didn't even talk about any of that.
Yeah, so main site, the legacy site is faithbyreason.net. You send the scroll bar below, and for patrons, which is where I'm steering everyone, because that's where the action is. That's where you can interact with me, and I'm much more active there. And that is so that's faithbyreason.net. Actually, I haven't even put up my latest Genesis series piece up there. So yeah, I got to update that. I'm actually been doing some things on that, and then here's my Patreon. And if you actually scroll down, you'll see what I just posted, an announcement. It's about the Revelation series is going to be exclusively for members. It's going behind a paywall. All the stuff that was free on YouTube, 60 episodes, more than 60 hours worth of stuff, is going to only be available for patrons and for members of faithbyreason.net. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, YouTube has just been like not very kind to me. I'm not getting the views I'm supposed to be getting. More people, there are more comments sometimes in my comment section than there are views, meaning I'm getting shadow banned. I've got a couple of strikes against me. A lot of my stuff's been demonetized. Some of my more popular videos, are demonetized for reasons I don't even understand, because I'm not doing any kind of profanity.
What were the strikes for? What did you get strikes for?
Medical misinformation, because I had the audacity of saying that a certain injection would have an effect on your DNA, which is exactly what the literature in
that's the point of it, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I was told I was giving out medical information, and it happened twice, and so I have 2 strikes against me there. And being demonetized and stuff. I'm like, you know what? Well, the hell with YouTube. And why am I? You guys are running commercials on my stuff, and you're getting money, but I'm not, because you demonetized some of my stuff. So why am I giving it to you for free? If people want it, and if they see the value, and that's the second thing. I mean, this is a lot of work. You guys know this. Doing all this stuff is not easy, and it's time consuming, and if there's value in it. So I want to give it to the people who actually give me value in return. So, my patrons, they are kind enough and to give me the value, and they're getting something in return. So I'm just going to make it available to them and to members. And, there'll be teasers on YouTube and on Rumble. And if you want to get the whole series, then you've got to come to one of the paid tiers.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You got to move away from these. You want to talk. It's like a parasitic relationship. Like you said, they're putting ads on your content, but you're not getting paid for it. It's like, man, how much worse could it really get there?
Exactly. So there'll still be stuff on YouTube, but the main stuff that I'm putting a lot of work into, I'll probably do the same with the Genesis series. Just make that exclusive for people who see the value and are willing to give resources in return. And I've got my Patreon is growing. I really appreciate it, and I want to make sure that the people who are supporting me are getting the value, and not people who aren't supporting me.
So that's one more time, patreon.com/faithbyreason, correct?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Another $10 super chat. Ed, YouTube. Ed over YouTube.
Oh,
Mock the harder.
Mock the inocular. Do it harder.
And
I wasn't even mocking it, but yeah. Anyway,
that's the thing. Is like the game that we're playing with this. We're very careful. I put a lot of work into censoring anything that might trigger whatever, just so that we can get seen by a bigger audience. And it's it's the work that I've got to do.
It's a real dance. It's a real dance. Yeah. And people get upset. They'll look at our YouTube and they'll go, oh, what? This is a censored version. All these words are bleeped out. And it's like, this is the only version that can exist.
There could be no version of this.
Which is like, very close to, we almost had that. We had 2 strikes. We almost got the whole channel, nuked. So it's this or nothing, guys. And if you want to support, YouTube, which I understand, it's a great place for cat videos and such. And also instructionals. Half the stuff I know how to fix on my car is because of YouTube. I get it. Yeah. But if you want to support that model, this is what you're going to get. And otherwise, Patreon is the place to be. Until even us, we're looking for a way one day to get off of Patreon, because even they can pull the rug out from
That's
underneath
true.
you. But
Yeah.
we were promised Foreskins. We were promised the
Yes,
Scofield
okay,
Bible,
yes,
and so I'm very interested in watching you navigate this. How are we gonna do this, Ed?
Why don't we start with the Scofield part? And I think that might actually lead to back to Genesis, where the circumcision was instituted and that sort of thing. So the Scofield Bible is it's very much in the news right now. It's in the public zeitgeist, and so there's a lot of mythology around it. Some truth, but some things that are not so true, and people are just saying a lot of things about it that is it really true? What they're saying. So essentially, what you hear. Let's start with the myths about it. The things that aren't true. And here, by the way, I'm not here to promote the Scofield Bible at all. I'm not saying that, but what I want to just be objective and say, what is this really about? So some of the myths around it that the Scofield Bible, that Cyrus I. Scofield, essentially wrote a version of the Bible that weaved in basically Zionist propaganda and some Zionism and dispensationalism and very pro-Israel ideas, and that his dispensationalism was affected by John Darby, who was famous for his takes on the rapture and things like that. So, and that maybe Scofield was funded by the Rothschilds when Israel was about to be established, and in order to get Protestant Christians on the side of Israel and things like that. So there are some things about that just are blatantly false. One of them is that Scofield rewrote the Bible. No, the Scofield Bible, as it were, is a King James version of the Bible that has study notes. So what C.I. Scofield did is he published a Bible, and he had extensive study notes that were embedded in the Bible. So you'd have the top half of a page would have the verses from the King James. Then the bottom half would be Scofield's notes about what he felt these things meant, how they tie to other verses. For example, he'd have something about creation, in Genesis chapter 1. Then he'd refer to the creation narrative that's talked about in Job, and maybe in Colossians, where it talks about how Jesus brought everything together, and he holds all these things together. What he was doing a commentary. So it's not true that he rewrote the Bible. It is true that he made a commentary about it, but it is also true that it had a more pro-Israel stance. And the Bible was originally his version, his Scofield Bible with his notes was written in I think it was 1909, and the thing was revised in 1917. And it became very popular because it was one of the very few Bibles that had a commentary built into it. Most of the Bibles were just the scripture, and then you'd have to buy another commentary, so you'd have to be referencing two books back and forth. So this was more convenient for people who were studying the Bible. You had his notes right there. So again, it became extremely popular, especially around that time, because that's when World War I started. A couple of years after his revised version, then World War II happened. So people were, these are huge wars. People in crisis start turning back to the Bible and to God. And here is this popular Bible that is basically an all-in-one. So the good news about it was that people were studying the Bible more. The controversial aspect was C.I. Scofield's notes, because again, the Bible is inspired by God. Commentaries are not. And what Scofield was doing is similar to what I do. I do commentary. I do my commentary on the book of Revelation. I'm doing commentary on the book of Genesis. But I'm not perfect. My words are not from God. They are my words. And I love that people are embracing it and they're getting something from my teachings, which is great. But I could be wrong on certain things, which is why I encourage folks always study for yourself. Take what I say. Was there anything
within his commentary that seemed subversive? I mean, I understand that there was this pro-Israel bent, but was that just an honest take of his, or does it reek of some sort of subversion?
Well, that's what people believe, because and this is where we'll get back to Genesis. The main area that he popularized that affects the way the Protestant churches felt about Israel was the Abrahamic covenant, where God, I believe it starts in Genesis chapter 12, where God calls Abraham. He says, he calls him and says, "Come out of your land, and I will take you," I'm paraphrasing, "into a land that I will show you, and I'll make a great nation out of you, and you will bless the earth, and through your descendants, the earth will be blessed through your progeny, and I will bless them that bless you, and I will curse them that curse you." And Scofield's notes about that basically said that is referring to Israel, to the Jewish people, to the Israelites, so that anyone who blesses them will be blessed, anyone who curses them will be cursed, and that carries over to in modern Judaism, not modern Judaism, excuse me, modern Jews, modern Israel. And his commentaries and his Bible became very popular in seminaries. So you had an entire generation of pastors being trained and using the Scofield Bible as their main reference source. And so they took that to mean, well, we have to bless Israel. And if in blessing and cursing, we have to look at the definitions of those things. Blessings and cursings are words. I think we might have talked about this previously.
Yeah, that was actually a really great way of looking at it that I wasn't too sure I understood. But the way that we defined it on the last episode was, blessing isn't necessarily support of Israel as a government, or even support in their military movements, or even financial support. But really what it is saying something like praying,
not speaking ill of.
Yeah, not cursing them.
Right.
We're talking
Right.
about spiritual concepts, right?
Right.
A blessing would be that they come to realize that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and they rectify the direction that they've been taking. And that's a sort of blessing. Whereas a curse is like, I hope terrible things happen to them, and I hope they never realize what they've done.
Exactly. So, and so that is the correct definition, the biblical definition of blessing and cursing. Unfortunately, some folks, and again, was there a nefarious hand behind it? Possibly. I don't know for sure. Was there a Rothschild financial incentives given to some of these seminaries to promote some of these things? Maybe. But because what I know when I was growing up, and the pastor of the church when I was growing up, he went to seminary. He went to Dallas Theological Seminary, which is one of the biggest ones. Dallas and Moody are probably the two most well-known seminaries, and they embraced this idea. And he took it to the blessing, meaning that you have to say nothing but positive things about Israel, and you can't say anything wrong about it. And that has carried over to this day, because we talked about last time the Christian Zionists versus the replacement theologists, these two extremes. And the Christian Zionists have taken the words based on what they read in Scofield and what they studied to mean that you not only can you not say anything bad about Israel, you have to only say good things about them. Otherwise, God will curse you. And they have the wrong definition of cursing. They think, again, like you were just saying, Raven, that blessing means doing stuff, giving them money, giving them military aid, growing red heifers for them. And cursing them means, the terrorist attacks and things like that. No, they're words. But when you take something and you reinterpret it, which is always the danger of not studying the Bible. And I've talked about this before. Reading the Bible versus studying it. Reading it is just a word. Studying it is looking at it in context, having the definitions, having a good definition for blessing and cursing. If you have a poor definition of it, then because when we think as Christians, when we think of blessing, we think of deeds. I hope God blesses me with a spouse, or I hope God blesses me with some money.
Yeah,
That's
blesses me with a nice house, blesses me with a good job, blesses me with right.
So that's Christianese, but it's not what the Bible says. And if you take that to Israel, then it could mean that you have to be completely positive towards them all the time. So that's one of the issues with the Scofield Bible, is the Israel part. The other part is what's called dispensationalism, and that is the idea that God has dealt with the world through 7 specific eras, and he's dealt with them in those 7 different eras in certain ways. Now, I buy into that. Actually, I'm not a dispensationalist per se, because I don't believe everything the dispensationalists believe, but I do believe that during different periods of time, God has dealt with man differently. And I know we've talked about that before as well. In the Adam and Eve, he's not dealing with us the way he dealt with him. There's no tree of the knowledge of good and evil that we can or can't eat from. And then you have the time of Noah. That was a different period of time, and God dealt with people differently. They had longer lives and they had different rules. Then you have the era of the law. God dealt with the world through Israel and through the law. Well, now we're not in that era. He's not dealing with the world through the law now. We are not, as Christians, we are not required to obey all the aspects of the law as part of our belief system. God's not going to be upset with you if you eat shellfish, or if you don't consider your wife ceremonially unclean when she's on her menstrual cycle, or we don't have to sacrifice a bull or a goat for our sins. Why? Because Jesus fulfilled the law. Jesus was the sacrifice. And, the law had other aspects, ceremonial and civil and all sorts of things. So we're in a different era. So yes, God does deal with us differently in different eras. Right now, God is dealing with the world through the church. That was kind of how we ended last time about what should the stance of the church be towards Israel. It's like, let God handle Israel. Right now, your job as a Christian, if you're in a church, is to do what God told the church to do, which is make disciples of all nations.
What are the controversial views of dispensationalism? Because I had, whenever you bring it up to somebody, they immediately flinch. But I'm like, man, am I a dispensationalist? Because I agree with what Ed is saying. I mean, you made a compelling case for God dealing with the people differently throughout the ages. And certainly with your theory about the speed of light, it makes a lot of sense.
Right. So the controversy is what people read into dispensationalism and how it transforms. It's the example that I just gave a minute ago about how blessings and cursings are just words. But then people say, well, no, blessings and cursings are deeds. And then they make a whole doctrine based on that. The controversy with dispensationalism is not just that God deals with people differently in different eras. I don't think you can deny that. But it's what you put on it and what you add to it. And then it becomes a straw man argument. An example I like to use is when people, you have the left wing people really hated the Tea Party. Okay. And then the right wing people really hate things like BLM. But they don't actually hate those movements. They hate what they evolved into. Like the Tea Party was just started as a grassroots uprising of people saying, hey, we're being taxed too much and we're not being represented. It's like not civil war, the revolution is taxation without representation. So it was just a grassroots movement of people saying we're being taxed too much. But then it got hijacked by the political right and became a whole different thing. And then the left didn't attack the people who were saying we're getting taxed too much. They started attacking all the other ideologies. Same thing with BLM, Black Lives Matter. It started as a grassroots movement of people saying, hey, there seems to be a rash of police killing unarmed Black men, as if our lives don't matter, as if we were just, we can just be killed. Who cares? And they started protesting that. But then they got hijacked by the far left and communism and Marxism and things like that. And then the right only attacked the communists and Marxists who were heading up the movement, not the fact that, hey, there are people being killed in the street who, whether you believe they're criminals or not, arrest them, take them to jail, don't just shoot them. So, but that's the same thing that happened with dispensationalism. The dispensationalists, they seem to focus on eschatology because obviously the dispensations that have happened in the past, Adam and Eve, Noah, the law, all those are in the past, but there's supposed to be, another dispensation, the seventh, which is, the tribulation and the millennium, which haven't happened yet. And people focused on that. So there was a huge focus on eschatology. And then you combine that with the idea of, Israel, God's chosen people, and they are the ones who through whom prophecy is going to be fulfilled through. And that's when you have folks who become the Christian Zionists saying, we're going to help bring about the end times by growing these red heifers, by supporting Israel and wanting them to be a nation, because in the end times, in the tribulation, there has to be a temple there. That's where the Antichrist sets himself up to be worshipped. So in order for there to be a temple, there has to be Israel in the land. So yeah, Israel's in the land. Great, we're getting closer to the end. Let's help them build a temple in order for there to be some place for the Antichrist to desecrate. And that's where the criticism comes in. It's not the idea of history unfolding in certain arcs and God dealing with people in different ways over different periods of time. It's like, what are people doing to try to make it come to pass? And that's when you have people who criticize certain Christians for trying to bring about the end times.
Yeah, it's funny because at the coffee shop that I was at yesterday, I met a Christian missionary, real nice girl, knows her stuff. And I asked her basically that, and I was like, "Hey, do you have any reservations about you bringing about the end times? Because kind of that's what you're doing, right? I mean, you have to preach the gospel to the ends of the earth, and it's like, well, what to what end? I mean, where does like how do you feel about that?" And she was like, "Well, that's what we're called to do." And I'm just like, I get it. It just feels weird to me. It always.
Well, I
never
don't know
sat
if you heard, but the tribulation's been canceled. Everybody rejoice because apparently none of the red heifers they all didn't fit the bill. I saw that article came out today. Yeah. I mean, who knows how true it is?
I actually did ask her about that. I was like, so where are you at with the tribulation? Pre, post, mid,
or well, rapture. That's a rapture.
The rapture. Yeah. And of course she's like, oh, I'm not really sure. Maybe somewhere in between. And I'm just like, yeah, like I don't know, dude. I think you think you're going up first, and it's a weird one. It's a weird one for me. But I guess that's what Christians
she
are
have Down
called
syndrome?
to do. No, she seemed
she's not going first. So she's not going first. Yeah, I don't know. I saw that article though, and it said that all of the heifers that came out of Texas, specifically those, which is that was the whole thing, because there's a ranch in Texas dedicated to creating the perfect genetic red heifer to fulfill prophecy. I don't know if they have a Christian Zionist bent and they're trying to escalate end times, or if they're just like, if we can make these heifers, we can make some money, dude. Because these rabbis will pay a lot. Why not both, right? I guess.
Yeah, probably. I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I've heard the guy interviewed. He seems pretty sincere. But yeah, I'm sure he's not doing it for free. But you brought up a good point, Top, about another controversy with the Scofield Bible. Was that Scofield was, I think I might mention this before, he was very much into the rapture. And the rapture is extremely controversial. I mean, it's the most controversial topic in eschatology. And I think with the whole little season thing these days being a close second. But the idea of the rapture is, again, very controversial. Some people believe in it, many people don't. And they say that C.I. Scofield was a disciple of John Darby. And there's some people say, well, C.I. Scofield influenced Darby. And Darby lived 200 years before C.I. Scofield was born. So I don't really think, unless he had a time machine, I don't think he influenced Darby. And perhaps Darby influenced Scofield. But again, that just adds to it. So if you're not into eschatology, if you think that the rapture, especially the pre-tribulation rapture, is crap, then you're going to say, okay, Scofield didn't know what he was talking about. He had an agenda. And perhaps he did have an agenda. Maybe he was trying to promote Israel, but that's not the only thing he commented on. He had commentary throughout his entire Bible. And so the rapture is a big thing. And because people are really have a bug up their rear for the rapture, you'll hear people say that John Darby invented the rapture. Well, unless John Darby had a time machine and also went back to the first century and told Paul to write 1st and 2nd Thessalonians and 1 Corinthians 15, then no, he didn't. Paul wrote about it first. Whether or not you think it's going to happen before, in the middle, or after the rapture, obviously after the tribulation, is irrelevant. Paul said it was going to happen, and Darby didn't invent that. He had it. It became suppressed because for about 1,000 years, the Catholic Church had dominance, and the Catholic Church does not like eschatology because the idea of Jesus returning and overturning the evil rulers isn't very popular with the evil rulers. So
you're talking about us, yeah.
Right, exactly. So there's not a lot of eschatology in the Catholic Church. But then when the Reformation happened, a lot of things that weren't being taught started being taught again, and Darby started teaching the rapture again, and people were like, oh, this is new, this whole rapture thing. No, it's not new. It just hadn't been taught for 1,000 years readily because of because Catholicism dominated doctrine, from about 700 AD until about 1700 AD. But that's another controversy.
Can I ask you something? This is going to be a jarring aside, but
yeah.
Was King James a gay demonologist?
Probably.
All right.
No, I'm saying when I say probably, I mean King James. He was not a great pious person. He was not. I've heard that criticism before. I've had people tell me, well, you believe in the King James Bible, and King James was a degenerate. Yeah, it probably was, but King James didn't write the King James version of the Bible. He just put his name on it. He was like the executive producer.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, even if he did write it, it's like sometimes people like Hitler seems to have been a real big asshole. But if he said like, you shouldn't abuse animals. That's wrong. You'd go like, well, yeah, he's right about that one.
Yeah,
right?
King James just funded the translation of it. I think some of the holdups were that he might have been a demonologist, so he wanted the most accurate translation of the Bible in order to do his spells. Which, even if true, it's like, all right, so then in the end, we kind of got a really accurate translation of the Bible.
What do you think, Ed? What's the most? Because I own 2 King James versions, and you've talked before about how the flowery language lends itself sometimes, like when you were talking about God saying pretty harsh things about the Jews, and how people go, well, you shouldn't criticize the Jews, and it's like, well, God said a lot, so maybe you should be able to call out the things that are happening. That doesn't mean condemning them and saying you wish terrible things upon them, but there's some pretty insulting things in the Bible about them. And you said that the flowery language of the King James version sort of makes that a little cloudy. You can't really recognize how much punch is in some of those things. And do you think that the King James version is the best version for people to be reading, or maybe there's a different one?
I think here's why I think the King James version, or even the New King James, is a good version. Not because it's perfect. It actually has some flaws, but all those flaws are very well known. And so that's why and there are a lot, and most of your Bibles will have notes saying that, that this means this here, but this wasn't in the original manuscript. It'll tell you right there, this was not in the original manuscript. It's been so well documented that the mistakes in it are known. Whereas you get a newer version or another contemporary English style version, which it has not gone through the same amount of critical analysis. You don't know where maybe making mistakes. And so as far as the flowery language, that was just how they talked back then. And in our language, it sounds very, very polite. It says Adam knew his wife Eve, as opposed to Adam banged the crap out of his wife and dropped the kid. Well, it's the same thing, but saying he knew her just sounds, it sounds
more
flowery. It sounds better. It sounds more polite.
Yeah. It's actually funny, that woman that I was talking with, I think she was going to Uganda or another place in Africa today.
Oh,
which is crazy. So I met her, like, she was like,
oh, she's doing missionary. Okay.
Yeah. But her job, I'm like, so what are you, building churches or something out there? She's like, no, we're going out there. We're teaching people how to lead churches. And we're also translating the Bible to different language, because I guess each of these villages has like different dialects of whatever language they're speaking.
What a massive undertaking.
It's crazy.
That must be hugely difficult.
I just met this person at a coffee shop. I was like, that's incredible. And that's what she's flying out there to do that. It's kind of wonderful. Kind of wonderful to think about.
No, it's great. But I'll say the good news about the Bibles is that because we have things like the Dead Sea Scrolls, which actually were on display in Southern California when I was down there, I just didn't have it. I would have loved to have gone to the museum to see them. But because we have these old texts that are dated, 3rd century BC, and we have the Masoretic text and the Textus Receptus and the Alexandrian text, and we found all these. We can compare them to our modern versions, and we can see where there's discrepancies. And it's for all the flaws of the King James, it's still for the most part it's a good translation. And the places where it misses the mark, we know, and they've been notated.
Well, it's fascinating because it's almost like an example of God using a severely flawed dude who may have been a homosexual demonologist.
Hello.
And
how are you doing?
to do something that, like, whatever he did, it's still a useful tool to us all the way in 2025. So fascinating how that works.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the last episode,
or a Saul to Paul situation.
Right, exactly. We talked about this in the last episode, where God said specifically to the Jews, he says, I didn't choose you because you were the best. I chose you because you were the worst. I chose you because you were the biggest a-holes on the planet. Look at their progenitor, Jacob. Jacob was a scoundrel. He cheated his brother Esau, which, Esau was no great person either. He was, he wasn't exactly a role model, but he cheated his brother out of his birthright. He cheated him out of his blessing. He started half of the progenitors of the 12 tribes were the sons of his handmaiden, because he had his 2 wives, Leah and Rachel. So half the kids come from them, and the other half just came from their maids. So, and they did some terrible things. So God said, I didn't choose you because you were the highest. I chose you because you were the lowest of all people. So that people would say, if God can make these jackasses his chosen people, then there's hope for me too.
It's like he's talking to us.
Yeah, but it's interesting because right, Jacob and Esau, that story, it's kind of always overlooked. And I don't know, it's probably not always overlooked, but by me, I'm always like, well, Esau had a very bad bloodline going on here, so that's why God hated him. But I'm like, this dude stole.
Dude,
this dude tricked, stole, lied to his father.
Yeah.
And that's a no-no.
And then everything springs forth, or, they spring forth from him, which is wild because, as somebody who's late to Christianity, as I am going through that, I'm like, yeah, this guy seems like he sucks. He seems like he sucks. And then, so I guess that's just another one of those things where it's like
pretty bad too, but like, that's not.
But Jacob seemed like a super, and then he comes from the field and he's about to die and he's like desperate and he's like, can you give me some of that? What is it? Red lentil soup, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, dude, I'll give it to you. Just give me everything that's meaningful to you.
Right. Exactly.
I'm like, damn, dude, you suck.
They both. So you have to look back at Isaac and Rachel. I'm sorry, Rebecca. And like, you guys are bad parents. You raised two really rotten kids.
Yeah, dude.
That's a whole other thing.
It is interesting though, because the Bible is filled with, so whenever you get on, somebody kind of gets on their high horse and it's like this, especially people that were raised in the church, they have a sort of a bad taste in their mouth for than thou people. Right. And it's interesting because maybe that bad taste is well founded, considering how often God uses seemingly terrible people to do incredible things over and over and over again. That seems like an overwhelming theme in the Bible. Oh, is that us? We got thunder.
He uses he uses the lowest. Yeah, he uses some of the lowest people to make the point, and I think that's the reason to say that God. He said when it says that verse that God is no respecter of persons, meaning that He doesn't look at people the same way we do. We want to admire you if you are rich and or good looking or highly accomplished, which is fine. Nothing wrong with those things. But God's like, no, because you already have built-in status. I want to take someone from the bottom and give them the status, so you know that it came from me. You can say that if someone who is a billionaire starts giving his money away, and he's like, God told me to give my money away. Okay, you're such a great person because you did all this stuff. No, how about if God instead takes someone who was homeless, blesses them to become a billionaire, and then they give it away? Then they can say, you know what, this is all because of God. It's not because of my achievements, not because I created a great AI or whatever and became rich and then gave my money away. No, that's all you. But if God takes someone who's low, you can say, this is all God. I couldn't have done anything without God.
Man, that's a great point. That's a great point.
I was actually having an argument with someone online. I know, go figure. But the guy was talking about Ben Askren. He's a former MMA fighter.
Yeah,
wrestler.
That's so cool, dude. I love the Ben Askren situation right now.
Well, I mean, I don't love it.
No, I hate what he's going through, but I love that he found God in this huge way.
So he's one of these guys. He's a wrestler, MMA fighter. But I guess he was an atheist prior, and he would just reject any idea of talking about God. He's kind of an intellectual when you listen to him talk. He's a smart dude.
He's actually married to a Christian for 15 years, but she was going to the church, and they made an agreement early on to keep it separate. Like, yeah, you go to church and do your thing, but I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah. And anyway, I think he was training, got some sort of staph infection, and ended up having to get a double lung transplant after massive what would you call that?
I don't even know. What does staph turn into? Turns into like a MRSA?
Yeah,
I don't know. I know staph's bacterial, but I don't know what it
can become. I don't know what. All I know is the dude went from being like, we're talking about a high level fighting athlete, like an athlete in combat sports, to a guy that looks like a walking skeleton who died apparently like 7 times is what he said. Something crazy. Wow. I don't know how many times he died. He died a shit ton in that whole experience.
Died 4 times. 4 times. Anyway, so at the end of that, he's like, he came out of it and he's like, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to give this a shot and look into God. So I guess he's saying that he is now a Christian, which is, whatever, neither here nor there, but the idea that he's looking into it, I think is great. Mm-hmm. And in the comments, of course, someone's like, they go, oh yeah, it's like God only takes you when you're at your lowest. It's like basically you'd have to be a weakling in order to submit to God. And I'm just like, how backwards are you thinking, where it's like, that's the most powerful thing you could do is to submit, where this guy is sitting here thinking that he has all the power, but really you're just a coward because you're not even giving this thing a fair shot.
Yeah. I was seeing people in the comments that were saying things like, oh, so he's thanking Jesus for saving him, but not the doctors. Not the doctors. And it's like, hey, maybe for a second, imagine that a dude that died 4 times had an experience that you don't understand. And that was so profound that it exceeded thanking the doctors, which I'm sure Ben Askren thanked the doctors, you know what I mean? But whatever it was led him to finding specifically Christianity is what he said. He was almost in tears when he was he was like choking up on the words Christianity. And these people are just reducing it and going, oh yeah, you thank God, when it was really the doctors. It's like, dude, you think something didn't happen there? You think he didn't have something that you don't understand? Like that I don't understand? Like this guy died. I mean, you're literally an anonymous person on the internet. I don't know. It's amazing.
How can you tell someone else their experience?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And what's wrong with you, honestly, that you can take this person's situation and you want to mock it? That tells me more about you than it does about him.
And it's crazy that you don't go like exactly what I just said, which is like, wow, I wonder what he experienced. I wonder what this guy saw, what he went through, what he felt that made him come out of this several near-death experiences. And even though he abstained for 15 years, he decided that this was the truth.
What an admission of like a stubborn child that is. It's almost like like they know the truth, but they have to. They're almost like daring God. Like, yeah, man, you'd have to bring me to my knees. You'd have to make me in order to serve or to recognize you. And it's like, why, stupid?
You'd have to make me realize I'm retarded.
Yeah,
it's like pretty much that's what it is.
Well, in my next couple of public episodes of the Genesis series, because I've gone through creation, Adam and Eve, and all that. So I'm gonna do at least 2 episodes on evolution. You know, give the other side, and the last one I'm going to actually give the atheists. I'm going to give them a gift. I'm going to tell them why they're so pissed off about the God they claim doesn't exist.
Do you think, Ed, and you don't have to dive into it at length, but is there any real argument for evolution, or is it just adaptation that we can observe in real time? Or is there some examples where you'll go like, it looks like there is some aspect of evolution that exists, but maybe not the one that we've been given, where we came from like mud skippers all the way up to dudes walking around on, doing podcasts?
Well, there are 2 things that are both called evolution: macroevolution and microevolution. Macroevolution, which is what the big theory, the secular theory is that one species can become another species through random chance and random mutations. Microevolution is variation within a species. And that's not actual evolution. That's one species has variation within it. Like dogs, you have Chihuahuas and you have Great Danes. They're all dogs. It wasn't like the Chihuahua was the primordial version that evolved into the Great Dane. No, they're just different species, but they're the same species. There's just a variation within it. But evolutionists will say that because we have different types of dogs, that proves that one evolved from the other. No, it doesn't. They all came from a common ancestor. They were all a wolf. And I sometimes tease my dog. I have an old golden retriever who's like the most docile animal in the world. And I'm like, you were once a wolf. What the hell's wrong with you?
They're so goofy. They have like seemingly no survival instinct, and they're basically like a child. Golden retrievers are like some aspect of a toddler, and they just remain that way.
It really, I love my dog. She's great. She's 12. She's like, getting towards the end. It's going to be devastating. But I'm like, you are not. You're good for if I shoot an animal, you can go and bring it back to me. But you're not. There's no kill in you at all. You're not. If someone breaks into our house, she'd go up to him and just like start rubbing up against him and licking him. Like, yeah, thanks, great guard dog. But the whole point of that is, if the microevolution or variation within a species is not evolution. Evolution says that wolf used to be a salamander, and there's no evidence for that at all. In fact, genetics speaks against it. Evolution's impossible, not because of the Bible. In my whole evolution series, I don't even talk about the Bible. I just look at the science. That's not how genetics don't work that way. Mutations are never beneficial. There's never been a single beneficial mutation ever observed, not one. And also, our DNA is self-correcting. Our DNA is designed not to pass on negative traits. So our DNA does not generally pass on negative mutations. It usually cleans them up.
The idea of evolution in the sense that you're talking about really starts to seem like Nephilim shit, right? Like when you're talking about like genetic manipulation, seems like that's what they're after, this idea of CRISPR and the dog-headed people. And
Yeah, if you wanted to highlight an example of one species becoming another, you might look at like chimeras or something like that, which is like,
or the Sphinx. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a human with a cat head and a tail. It's like, that's all Nephilim stuff, right?
Yeah,
there.
that's all genetic manipulation. But that's intelligence. Someone had to intelligently do that, which shows that it can't happen by random chance. I mean, in order to believe in evolution, you have to violate like other scientific laws that are established. Like all three laws of thermodynamics have to be not true in order for evolution to be true. Because the first aspect of just naturalism in general is that it's the Big Bang, that there was nothing and then nothing exploded and became everything. Well, that violates the first law of thermodynamics, which in layman's terms states that matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. So then it can't be created out of nothing. But we know that the universe is finite, which means it had a definitive beginning, which means that there had to be some point where there was not a physical universe, and then there was. That can't be with the first law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics is basically chaos theory, that over time things lose energy and they break down. You go from complex to simple. Evolution says the exact opposite, that you go from simple to complex. You can't observe that in nature. You cannot recreate that in a controlled setting, which means it's not empirical science. Everything goes from order to chaos. Nothing goes from chaos to order. That is impossible. That violates the second law of thermodynamics. We can't go from a single-celled animal to a trillion-celled human being, according to the second law of thermodynamics. So you'd have to deny that. So, and what I do after I go through all that, here I tell the atheists why they are so angry at the God they don't believe in. It's not because of any logical argument. It's because of their own unconscious mind.
Oh,
because your unconscious mind knows truth objectively. Now, your conscious mind, which is only 10% of your brain, we talked about this when John Lenhart was on a few months ago. Your unconscious is 90% of your brain. I'm sorry.
How is he doing? It's been a while.
He's doing good. Actually, there's I want to talk later on. Maybe I'll email you guys about there's someone that he's been doing a podcast with who I think would be great to be on your show. Actually, he's a fan of yours. He actually discovered John when he was on our show, when he was on this show, and they've been communicating. And he is a guy he's gone through a lot of stuff. He's with Buddhism and things like that, and he's got some incredible insights about how there's actually not really a divorce between Christianity and true Buddhism, not what people think Buddhism is. And I'm learning some stuff from him as well. And so as we get it, when the time is right, I'm going to talk to you guys about maybe like doing an episode with him. It's really interesting stuff.
I'm interested.
He and John have some episodes up now. I'll send you the link to them. But in any case, I'll wrap this up. Your unconscious mind knows that evolution is wrong. It knows that life doesn't come from non-life because your unconscious just knows reality. Your conscious can say, well, your conscious can believe, your conscious mind can believe lies. Your unconscious can't. It only knows reality. It only knows truth. And so if you're an atheist, your unconscious mind is saying, well, life doesn't come from non-life. And you say, yes, it does. No, it doesn't. But your unconscious is trying to help you. Your unconscious is your biggest fan. It's not moral. It just knows patterns and knows right and wrong. So every time you're an atheist and you're spouting evolution, your unconscious mind is saying, that's not true. And it's trying to help you along, but you don't know that. So, but it's bothering you. It's feeding you negative emotions because your unconscious doesn't speak to you with words. It speaks to you through emotions. So, when you walk into a room and you feel uneasy, that's your unconscious saying there's something wrong here. You need to figure out what it is. Or like when you walk into a room and you see someone who you're attracted to. Well, you don't decide, hey, I want to be attracted to them. No, that's your unconscious saying, oh, this person meets the criteria of the things you find attractive. So I'm going to send certain chemicals to you into your brain that will kind of basically arouse you and get you to go talk to this person. So with the atheist, the unconscious is kind of poking at them saying, this isn't true. This isn't true. Why do you believe this? Life doesn't come from non-life. Mutations aren't beneficial. Nothing can't explode and create everything. But what happens is they think that, so they get angry. It bothers them that their unconscious mind keeps poking them, and they blame Christians. And so they go onto onto your YouTube channels and in comment sections, and they just get into arguments with Christians over the God they don't believe is real, because they think that once they defeat a Christian in an argument, or once they read enough books or disparage Christianity, that poking in their brain will go away. But it won't. And the reason it won't is because it's not external, it's internal. And until they address their unconscious, they're going to keep being bugged by it. They're going to keep being irritated by it. And they're going to keep being angry. And that's why atheists are always so angry and always fighting against something that they don't even think is real.
We had a blackout for a second. There's a storm rolling in, and all the power died, and we were like, "Oh no, dude!" Poor Ed is still on there.
I'm still talking, so I don't know if it still got recorded, but yeah.
No, it definitely got recorded. That's still happening.
Okay.
Are we coming through the correct microphones and everything?
Yeah, I'll check. I'll check. But sorry.
Yeah, you guys sound fine to me.
So we caught what you were saying before, which is that the subconscious mind knows that evolution is not correct, that life can't spring forth from non-life.
Right.
But we lost you right after that.
Okay, so in brief, what I was saying is that it's always kind of the unconscious communicates through emotions, through things like that. So it doesn't communicate through words. Like the example I was giving is that when you walk into a room and there's somebody you don't like, you don't see them, but your unconscious sees them, and it makes you feel uneasy. You're like, there's something's off in here. Or if you walk into a room and you see someone who's attractive, your unconscious mind says, oh, that's the kind of person you like. I'm going to send you pleasure chemicals and arouse you so that you go talk to them. So, but with the evolution aspect, your unconscious makes them feel uneasy and irritated, keeps poking them, saying, that's not true. That's not true. And it gets them angry. But they don't know that their anger is coming from their unconscious. They think their anger is coming from God and Christians. So they go and attack Christians, and they go and attack God, and they disparage God, thinking that if I can defeat these Christians, then that poking in my mind will stop. But it doesn't.
That is interesting, because a lot of atheists are some of the most angry people that I've ever met,
because they are fighting 90% of their brain every day with what they believe. And they think that, and again, instead of addressing the unconscious mind, they believe that they attack God, they attack Christians, because they think that we are their enemy. And if they can beat us in an argument or a debate, or if they get enough evidence, or if they disparage, the fighter you were talking about, eventually that poking will stop. But it never will. You'll notice this I promise you that when I do the series on evolution, a bunch of atheists are going to come out of the woodwork into my comment section talking crap, because they are intentionally trolling YouTube, looking for anyone talking about this debate, because they want to talking about creation so that they can debate them and try to finally beat that poking in their brain. But it's not coming from us. It's coming from their own unconscious. And until they address their unconscious, they're going, because let's say they get into a fight with a Christian online, and let's say they're smarter than that Christian. Maybe it's a new Christian. Maybe they're not a good debater, and they win the argument and they feel good. Their brain releases endorphins and like, I've beat the Christian, yay! But then those endorphins settle down, and then they get pissed off again. Now they got to find a new Christian to fight, and they do it over and over and over again. They read all the books by Sam Harris and Christopher and Hitchens and Dawkins, thinking that if they can finally beat Christianity, that poking in their brain will go away, but it won't, because it's your unconscious. So until you address that, you're always going to be miserable, and that's going to be my gift to the atheists. I'm going to teach them how to address their unconscious mind and finally be free.
You're going to set them free. We were talking to Izzy N. Griffin, and he's actually a fan of yours. He said he's been watching a lot of your content, I guess, as he was scoping out us before he came on, and he saw you. He's like, this guy is like really answering some of my questions. But he brought this concept that was, I thought it was kind of genius, where he's saying that the archetypes that we once embodied are no longer, they're no longer functional. And we're moving into this, like, I don't know, post-realism society where those archetypes are being replaced by other archetypes which aren't real partially because of the internet, partially because of the fabricated reality that everybody agrees to continue to live in and push forward. Mm-hmm. And this is the maddening part of being an atheist, where it's like you're constantly confronted with what's in front of your face that is real, and you understand on a deep level the logos, the truth of what is happening, but you have to argue against, you have to constantly kick against the brambles. Right. And then you just make redefinitions of words and archetypes and feelings and people and all this. And it's like, it will never stop. It fractionates to, what did he say? There were 8 main archetypes, and then it turned into like, I don't know, there's like 64 of them now, because there has to be. It has to continue to expand in order to fit whatever narrative needs to be suited these days. But really what you're doing is just diving deeper into the madness, and there's going to be no explanation or rationality for this. So it's just, yeah.
It's funny too, because what Ed is talking about, this getting upset with your own subconscious understanding of the truth. Anytime somebody is like irrationally angry with you, it's always like a safe bet to go, this person's not mad at me.
Or you're mad at your dad.
You're mad at your dad. You're mad at yourself. There's something within you, right? That is got you all twisted up in the game. So I just find it funny because there's a long version of that. But then remember the bell curve meme where it's like, I always find this, there's long explanations, but those long explanations always end up siding with, well, if you just had faith and lean not on your own understanding, right? Because there's the bell curve meme where it's like the dude with a dent in his head and he's just like, Jesus is king. Yeah. And then it goes up and the IQ swings up, to whatever it is, the average IQ.
The median IQ.
Yeah, the median IQ. And it's like, how could you believe in a man in the clouds with a beard and da-da-da-da-da? And it's just this long, angry, kind of ridicule centered question. And then the bell curve swings back down to the high IQ. And it goes, Jesus Christ is king. And it's like, there is ways to explain it to the intellectual, but I find that we're constantly hindered by our own understanding. And then it just swings back to a place where it's just like, yeah, well, it's kind of why the Bible says have faith and lean not on your own understanding, because a lot of the times, even if you get there, you'll end up right where you could have started.
Well, the thing is, we don't know everything. And this is why, getting back to the Scofield aspect of it, because Scofield's, dispensationalism, as I said before, leans towards eschatology. And the problem with eschatology is that most of, despite what our little season friends think, most of prophecy hasn't happened yet. So we know what's going to happen, but we don't know how. And that lends itself to all these wild theories that go out there. And that people that are controversial, be it, the rapture, the Antichrist, how things are going. So people have all these ideas, it's the big thing now is that AI is the Antichrist or this thing. So we don't know. We know that there's going to be a figure. This beast is the beast. Will it be a human? Will it be a Nephilim? Will it be a robot? We don't know. We know the what. We don't know the how. And so since we don't know the how, it lends itself to all these different speculations, and it makes us uncomfortable. And the thing is, our unconscious mind thrives when we're comfortable. And when someone disrupts that comfort, that's when we rage against it. I have this in my book on the little season. Oh, by the way, real quick thing, real quick aside. For those of you who actually want to help me out, go to Amazon, look at my book, and give me a 5-star review, because there's like a 1-star review there. I'm like, yeah, this is Jack. He's a jerk.
That's how it is. Yeah. Dude, I want to say that to the audience. You don't understand. The people that dislike a thing will mobilize. They will get out and they will write bad reviews. And people that like a thing will just purchase it, enjoy it, and move on happily and not give any feedback. And you don't realize how much these people can affect a thing. It's the same way with, like, we have 350 or something ratings on like Apple Podcasts, and all it takes is like 10 a-holes to drop it significantly. And let me tell you something, they will go out of their way to come and do horrible things if they don't like you. And the people that enjoy your content, they tend to just smile and keep moving. And so it would be great if even a small percentage of the people that actually enjoy somebody's work will go out of their way and say something nice. If you purchased it, if you enjoy it, if you want to support Ed, go in and leave a 5-star rating, because God knows these a-holes are going out of their way. There's people, let me tell you something, they don't even read the book. They just go, I'm a little seasoner, baby. And I don't like that Ed is pushing back against it. And so now I'm going to use what little power I have in the form of a 1-star review to try to ruin things for you. So
I mean, the vast majority of my sales aren't even from Amazon. I'm getting almost nothing from Amazon. Most of my sales come from Patreon and from my website, which I appreciate, because I don't have to give Amazon their cut. But if somebody does want to go there, it will take you a minute. Just go in and put a 5-star, and I'd appreciate it.
I dropped it in the comments, so just go ahead and click there and do. Mine as well. It's super easy for you guys. Go there. It's Ed Mabry, The Little Season of Satan. Go there, give them a good rating. We actually have a question, it looks like, for you, Ed.
Okay.
And it says they want to derail the conversation as usual. I don't want to derail, but this maybe ties into Ed, and I'm a weather retard. Is this why animals and humans all know when shit's about to hit the fan?
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting question. He's talking about that subconscious understanding of the truth and how it may relate to animals that seem to know when something is going to go down, and then they get the hell out of there.
Yeah, animals are all unconscious. We have that 10% that's our conscious mind that we control. Animals are 100% unconscious.
Such a stupid joke.
And I think if we were more attuned to our unconscious, we would be able to see our unconscious sees everything. It walks into a room, it sees everyone instantly. Our conscious mind, we can see one person at a time. When you walk into a room, like I said, there could be out of the corner of your eye, there could be like, a girl or guy, whatever your preference is, that's attractive. You don't see them directly. You're looking here, they're over there. Your unconscious sees them and says, and then you feel this need, like, I feel something. I'm going to look over there. Oh, look at that hot girl. Your unconscious sees everything. It hears everything. It hears every conversation that's going on, but it filters it based on what it believes you want, what you've told it you want. And that's why have you ever been in a situation where you decide that, the classic example is you say, I want to buy a red truck. Then all of a sudden you keep seeing red trucks everywhere. No, there were always red trucks around, but your unconscious didn't focus you on them because it didn't know you wanted that. But when your unconscious hears, oh, you want a red truck? Okay, I'll make sure you see them. And it's the same thing with opportunities. When I was, started doing Faith by Reason, I was like, well, I'm not trying to do this to make money. I just want to get the word out and I just want to help people. Then when I started with the help of you guys were very instrumental in me saying, hey, you need to monetize this stuff. Now I'm seeing opportunities everywhere to monetize it. They were always out there. I just wasn't focused on it. But now my unconscious says, oh, you want to supplement your income with this. Great. I will now point you to, or I'll make sure you're focused and you see these opportunities. So the point is with the weather stuff, your unconscious, if you say that, I want to be more in tune with this, and then you start practicing it with repetition. You need to do repetition. Again, we'll have to have John back on again to talk. I know this isn't, the normal bailiwick for the show, but really interesting stuff. And he can help people attune it. But when you repetitively say, I want to be more in tune with the weather, and then you start studying weather and you start looking out for it, your unconscious says, oh, this is what you want. I will get you more in tune with it. My grandmother could feel when a storm was coming on. She literally could. And because she was in tune with it, not because she was magic, but because she told her unconscious mind, not just, that she was more in tune with, that she wanted to be more in tune with it because of, they lived in East Texas. It was a tornado area. And so it was life and death. She had to be aware when a tornado was coming so they could go to a shelter. And then even when she moved to California, she would say, you know what, I feel bad weather coming, because she was so in tune, because that was her repetitive thing that she would do when she was a young girl.
That's interesting, because there has to be a function that we could probably tune into. I mean, unless we're just that biologically different, but you'll see like herds of deer escaping an area, only moments before something tremendous, like a landslide will happen, or an earthquake, or what have you.
Yeah, out here it's all about earthquakes. My dog, as worthless as she is, she sometimes gets a little antsy right before an earthquake.
That's interesting. My cat has this weird, I don't know how to explain. I've been going through quite a bit. I'm not going to get into my dreams, I promise. Don't press the button. No. It's off. Don't press the dream button.
Is there an eject seat?
No, it sings about dreams. Every time I talk about dreams, is a drop that sings about dreams. Go ahead. But I've been having a lot of, really harrowing crap happen in the way of dreams and paralysis. And I prayed about it last night, and it stopped on a dime. So thank God. God is good. But my cat will be there like a lot, or she'll wake me up if I'm like struggling or having a dream, and then she just stares at me and watches me. Don't press the dream button. That's not nice. So I do think that animals have a sixth sense, but I have to get out of here in 20 minutes, and I was promised foreskins.
Okay.
I want the foreskins.
I've been watching the clock. Give me 5 minutes before we start talking about lopping off foreskins.
Okay,
It's,
fine.
it's not going to take that long, I promise.
All right.
No
Can you
punishment.
press the button so that it I don't like how blurry it is when it looks at me. Can you fix that?
Okay.
Producer?
I'll fix it.
Or have Nancy but here. See, everybody can see it. It's very blurry. It's unflattering, and I don't like how that's. Okay, so please.
So before we get to Foreskins, I want to get to one more thing. I want to wrap up the whole Scofield thing by kind of widening the scope of what we're talking about, because it's something that I've been noticing, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on it. And it's about, you know, modern Israel and the way things are going with that, because the Scofield Bible is part and parcel of that. The people who are anti-Israel are also, by and large, anti-Scofield Bible. They are, you know, they talk about the things we talked about, and it's kind of a straw man argument, because they're not fighting against what Scofield did per se with this commentary. It's like the thing with BLM and the Tea Party. They're not liking what the people who have taken his comments to an extreme. So they're mad at the extremists, not necessarily at the commentary. But what I'm starting to notice is a huge dichotomy with no nuance. People are either very pro-Israel or very anti-Israel with very little nuance, very little objectiveness. They either, Israel is great, you can't talk about them, they're the only democracy over there, they're our allies, and they're surrounded by their enemies, they're justified in doing whatever they want to do. On the other end, you have, and you know, this is basically our government, to be honest with you, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they are very much pro-Israel. And of course, you have the Christian Zionists, and you have that group. Then on the other end, you have being that Israel is worse than Nazi Germany. Netanyahu is a modern day Hitler. They're starving and killing. They're committing a genocide. They're wiping people off the map. They're doing all these terrible things. Like, you never support them, divest, all this kind of stuff.
I see you've been on Twitter.
I've been on Twitter. I've been watching Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and those folks, and and it's interesting because I like watching her because she's smart, she's funny, she's articulate, but she's very passionate. And if you listen to her long enough, you can get Netanyahu is the devil, and maybe he is. I'm not saying he's not, but it's a very extreme view, and there's no nuance. And on the other side, when you listen to our government, or when you listen to certain TV preachers, it's the other side. And that concerns me because what I'm starting to see is a Hegelian dialectic. Mm-hmm. I'm stepping back and saying, both of these guys are getting funded by the bad people. Our government is obviously is easily funded by the bankers. A lot of these televangelists, I'm sure they're getting some funding from the elites. And then the other side, and what I've noticed with the Candace Owenses of the world, they're very Catholic. I mean, we talked before about how she's gone like in a year to being hyper Catholic. And then I don't know if Tucker Carlson is. He's a Christian. I don't know if he's a Catholic or not. But Candace had
Kabbalist.
Okay.
I think we can talk about that. We can talk about that later. But she had this guy, right wing, Milo something or other.
Milo Yiannopoulos.
Milo, yes, he was formerly gay, whatever.
Yeah,
according to all works, and he was on there, and they were bashing Israel. And I noticed that he claims to be a Christian now. Maybe he isn't. If he is, great. But he was wearing a cross with Jesus on it, which is Catholic. Catholicism. Jesus is constantly on the cross. Jesus never, in their minds, he never came off the cross. He's constantly being sacrificed. That's what the Eucharist is. Every Mass, Jesus re-sacrifices himself for you, and you're drinking of his blood and eating his body, and he's perpetually on the cross. So, and they said some disparaging things about Protestants. And so again, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing a Hegelian dialectic, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And we see this in, we see this with right wing, left wing. They're both Hegelian. So the right wing, ultimate, anti-authoritarian, and laissez-faire capitalism. On the other end is socialism, communism. Those are thesis, antithesis, thesis, antithesis. But the synthesis is basically crony capitalism, corporate welfare, and this is what the elites really want. So my question is, I see a dialectic: extremely hate Israel, extremely love Israel. What is the synthesis going to be? Because that's what they really want. They're funding both sides of the extreme argument with the idea that we're going to come to a synthesis that will benefit them. And I'm wondering, what is this synthesis? Because I'm stepping back and I'm like, both of you guys are nuts. So there's something in the middle that the elites want. I'm just not sure what it is.
Yeah, they're begging us to ask for an answer. And this is why I stepped away from that kind of thinking, a while ago. And I mean, even the dude at the coffee shop was like, he's like, do you guys hate the Jews? And I'm like, no, we don't. Like, we went through all the phases of like, you have to notice what they're doing. And then you go, well, this isn't right. Then
now we just kind of bust their balls.
Yeah. Now I'm just kind of like poking at them a little bit because it's sometimes it's fun, but it's clearly set up to do, to get this reaction. And then when you see somebody like Milo Yiannopoulos, who I love because he is this cultural figure that whenever you see him, don't take anything he says seriously.
Yeah.
He is the actual jester of the court. He will be and look like whatever is needed at the time or whatever he thinks is needed at the time. So whether it's a gay Republican, that's Milo at the time. Right. If it's now this pseudo Christian right wing, not even anti-MAGA, but like pointing out he came up in the MAGA movement. He is that person now, and he does a fantastic job at pointing out and exploiting all these holes in the game. So I see it, but I understand his role. And I think it's the same thing with Candace Owens. Candace came up in this weird leftist college echo chamber. Then she's on with Dave Rubin, and then she's on the Daily Wire. And now she's this person. Right. And I'm like, all right, we're being told which side to take here. And I find it useful that they're doing it. I don't believe these people at all.
No, I don't trust them at all, no.
Yeah, but it's entertaining, and also, they do bring up a lot of good points. It's just, but I'm just not going to get to the point where then you go, therefore, we have to. And that's what everyone's waiting for, that shoe to drop of therefore. Right. So, but I'm watching these guys, Tucker Carlson, her, and now they have even Nick Fuentes is thrown into the mix of, I tweeted, I said, this guy's going to be president. And I don't know, I got like 500 followers, but I don't think I'm wrong. Wow. And I also don't want that. I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying this is what everybody's pointing to now. This is the way that things are moving. And it's the way that they want us to move. And it's the way that we will move because people are just retarded.
But I'm also in that same place where I'm done moving where they want us to move.
Yeah.
I realize that like they made a lot of they did an excellent job. A lot of the silos that they'd like to funnel you into are awfully tempting because they're paved the path to them with a lot of truth about the situation for the last 10 years or so. But I'm realizing how close we're getting to the silo. And then what happens is the doors are going to shut behind you and you're going to be left to deal with the consequences of whatever thing they pushed you towards. And they're not going to have to engage in it whatsoever. They're going to be off, in their ivory towers, sipping Mai Tais and laughing at all the poors that are engaging in whatever, if it's World War III or some dumb shit like that. And I'm done. I engaged in it for a while because it was satisfying because they quashed it. You could not engage in it for the longest time. There was some satisfaction that came from engaging with it, but I realized like this is rapidly going in a direction that they're very happy about.
Yeah.
And then so I'm done engaging with it now.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I agree. It's all about the synthesis. They're going to try to lead us somewhere. I'm just trying to figure out where it is. And maybe it has something to do with the end times and biblical stuff. And maybe that's where they're trying to go ultimately. Okay. Foreskins.
Oh, thank goodness. I was getting worried there. I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, I was promised.
Very excited. I'll sit back down for this.
Okay. So hopefully it's not disappointing. So here's the thing. Keep in mind that
that was very good. Good job, Top.
That everything that God commands, there may be a physical aspect, but the most important aspect is the spiritual, what it represents on the spiritual plane. So God commanded Abraham as a sign of the covenant to circumcise the males, to cut off the foreskin. Why would he do that? Why does God hate extra skin? All right. So on the physical aspect, what it does is it literally marks you as separate, because the Israelites were supposed to be a separate nation. And that is clearly a physical separation. You're going to look very different down there than anyone else. The second thing to keep in mind is that it is a blood sacrifice. And all the blood sacrifices in the Levitical law, sacrificing a goat or a lamb or a bull was a symbol spiritually of the covering of your sin that would have been ultimately brought into fruition when Jesus made his sacrifice. So all these were a dress rehearsal for the ultimate blood sacrifice of Jesus, because he was innocent. He never committed sin. A baby is innocent, has not committed a sin, and you have there's a blood sacrifice there. So you're not going to actually go like Moloch and kill the baby, but you take off the foreskin. It doesn't harm the child, but it shows that you have committed this innocent life to a covenant with Jehovah, with Yahweh. And it's also, there's the cleanliness aspects. I mean, it's not as big of a deal now, but back then, infection could happen. So because many of the ceremonial Jewish laws were to keep them healthy. God said, don't eat shellfish, not because he didn't like lobster and shrimp. He created them, but because they're filter feeders. Back then, if they spoil quickly, so they can make you sick. You could die. Same thing with pork. Whereas, fish with fins and scales were safer to eat because they weren't filter feeders. They were cleaner. And animals like, cows and lamb who chew the cud, they had cleaner systems because they only ate grass, whereas a pig will eat anything. Even though, so it's not because pork isn't delicious. God dang, it is. Love pork, but and our pork today is much cleaner. So he was just doing those things to keep them healthy. And it was the same thing with the foreskin. That was a health thing. It was symbolic for the covenant. And also, if you read later, God tells people, I want you to circumcise your hearts. What does that mean? What is circumcision of the penis? You're taking away skin that doesn't really serve a purpose. It's extra. And you circumcise it to be a part of a covenant with God. You circumcise your heart spiritually. You're cutting away the excess, the things that are not of God, that are not part of God's covenant, that aren't benefiting you. Circumcise your heart, because God says that he would rather you circumcise your heart than circumcise your phallus. If you gave him a choice, of course, because the phallus is just a symbol. Circumcision was a symbol. Circumcising your heart is spiritual. It's saying that I'm going to cut away all the excess that is not of God in my heart, and not the physical heart, obviously, but the heart is the seat of your conscience, is the seat of where right or wrong is coming from. So you cut away everything that's not of God, so that you're only acting within the parameters of what God wants from you. That's what he wants, more important than cutting off foreskin. So that's more or less the explanation. So I know we don't have a few minutes left, so I'll let you.
I'm wondering, and this might be, you might not have an answer for this, and this might be too late in the game to ask this, but I do wonder why certain rabbinic Jews do the mouth thing with the when they.
I think that's just like cleaner cut. They think, or
is that what they think it is?
Maybe the tool.
I don't think they're. You know what I'm getting at here, Ed? It seems
Yeah.
like certain. I believe it's called moil.
That's a tradition.
That's a tradition. That's a hell of a tradition.
But it's not from God. It's not biblical. It's a rabbinic. It's a tradition that they do. I don't know. It's a tradition that they did because the only thing, the instructions were to take a flint, which is basically like an obsidian stone, which is extremely sharp, because you're supposed to do it quick. You're not supposed to you're not going to torture the poor child. And you do it on the 8th day. Why? Because the 8th day is when vitamin K is the highest level in the baby, and it causes the blood to clot quickly. So God knew what he was doing. That's why circumcision is done on the 8th day, because the child's blood will clot quickly. So God wants wanted it to be as safe as possible for the child, not to harm them.
Yeah. But this is true. So I sometimes there's a conflation here. Xerox says, I don't think they bite it off. They cut and they suck. And I'm trying to, ask the question in the most gracious and least.
I think what it is like, all right, so this guitar behind me, I just hung up right before.
How are you going to make this about the guitar?
Before we got on watch this.
Okay.
On the call with you, Ed. And what I should have done was put anchors in the wall, but I didn't. You know why? Because I didn't have them. So I just drilled the stand into the wall.
Right into the sheetrock, like a Puerto Rican.
It'll stay. I just didn't have the tools on hand. And I think that's what we're looking at. It's like, you got the flint, and the guy's like, didn't bring it. And he's like, I got some teeth.
The thing is, though, is like now we have like iodine.
Yeah, we've got
antiseptic, little ointment. But there's still.
Listen, that's just weird. What do you know about? Do you know about the story about where they all agreed to be circumcised and then something happened? We were hearing.
Oh yeah, there's a story. I think it's in Genesis. We'll probably go over it in the Genesis story. So what happened was, and this is again how the scumbag sons of Jacob. There was a tribe. I forget the name of the tribe. I'll get to it when I get to my study. But there was a tribe of people who wanted to join the Israelites. But what happened was, well, they did a bad thing. They raped one of the sisters, whose name was Dinah. Okay, the guy raped her, but then he fell in love with her, and he said, I want to make her my wife. I did wrong. I want to make her my wife, and I want to officially join your family. But the tribe, Reuben and Levi and all those guys, they were like, screw this. So what we're going to do is we're going to, okay, if you want to join us, you got to be circumcised. But they were grown men. So they said, okay, we'll do it. We're willing to. We love, I love Dinah. I want all my people to be part of your people. We'll just be one big happy family. And if that's what it takes, okay, we'll circumcise ourselves. So they went and all the men were circumcised. But of course, they were laid up for a while. And while they were laid up, the brothers came in and killed them all.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
Because they were
I didn't know
jerks.
you'd be that out of commission.
I would have done the same thing.
You think you would be?
I'm not saying it was, yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, would you be up mowing the lawn a day or so later if you?
No? I knew a guy in high school that had to get.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had to get circumcised.
He converted to Judaism?
No.
No, he was just I think it looks better.
He had some sort of infection. I don't know. He was on the baseball team with me in high school, and the guy had to get the clippy clip. He was down. He had to quit the team.
What?
Yeah, dude. It was mid-season that this happened. This is a serious thing.
It's like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know why? Because I had the ball surgery.
Yeah, and
and
you were good?
They cut me in the abdomen, and is it serious incision, whatever. I was couldn't walk for a day or so, and then I was up and everything was. I was an unbelievable recovery. So I'm like, damn, you gonna take snips? And
You're
I
built
can't.
different though, David.
I am built different.
As an adult, apparently it's much more traumatic.
Shit, man. All right. Well,
Yeah.
So
you can get murdered by an entire.
Yeah. So it got this whole. I forget how many guys it was. There was a ton of guys who got it done, and these 12 men who came in and were able to kill that whole tribe because they were down and out after getting circumcised.
You know what I say? Soft.
Oh, they honestly kind of deserved it. It's hard for me to listen if you did that to their sister and then be like,
oh,
okay,
yeah,
marry
yeah,
her,
yeah.
I'll make her.
Well, I would say the one guy who did it, he might have deserved it, but the rest of the guys, it wasn't like they gang raped her. It was the one guy.
They were like, "Yo, what are you doing, dog?"
It's like we didn't even
we have a snipping coming up soon.
Right.
Yeah, that's messed
So
up.
yeah,
All right,
that's what they did.
You promised foreskins. You delivered.
I delivered the foreskin.
200 foreskins. A sack of 200 foreskins. Ed Mabry has delivered them to us. We got to wrap it up. I got to get the heck out of here. I got parent teacher night or meet the teachers. I'm going to tell them all about foreskins. But before we go, can you let everybody know, Ed, one more time, where can everybody find you?
Faithbyreason.net. So all my legacy material is. A lot of it's about to go behind a paywall, and you have to be a member, but there'll still be some stuff free there. My Patreon is patreon.com/faithbyreason. That's where I'm encouraging everyone to go. That's where you're going to be able to have access to everything. I'm going to put, all my stuff is going to be going there. And I'm on X. I'm putting stuff up there on Instagram, on YouTube and Rumble. There'll be some teasers that I'll be putting up there. But yeah, faithbyreason.net, patreon.com/faithbyreason.
All right. You heard him, guys. Go and support Ed, and also go and drop a rating on his book on Amazon, because these Little Seasoners suck. And that's really, I hate that, man. I hate when people do that kind of a thing. Yeah. It's like you just go out and exercise what little power you have, and you don't even take the time to read the thing. So thank you, Ed. I appreciate your time. It's good to see you, and we're going to have to run it back and do it again next week. We got to stop having so much time in between these episodes. We really do. That's all we got, right, Top?
That's all we got. Ed, again, thank you. And until next time, don't forget to obey, submit, and comply. We'll see you later.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
You can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see.